how do you think people are at risk? Because you deal with at risk. So, first of all, sexual assault. What do you know about like homelessness and sexual assault?
Um, so something like 94% of women struggling with homelessness incur sexual assault over the course of their lifetimes. Um,
94%.
94%. Um, and so even outside of houseless communities, it's estimated that about 1 in 4 women is sexually assaulted. Um, we can reason then that um, I have a fairly decent sized family. I have 3 sisters. I have a grandmother, and for me, I can directly relate those kind of statistics to out of say my grandmother or my mother or my 2 sisters. That means odds are one of them, is affected. And so it's a very personal issue. I feel for everyone. It's not a women's issue. It's 1 in 33 men is raped at some point in their lifetime. That's a statistic that doesn't get talked about. Um, and I don't know what the exact statistics are, but I'm sure you can multiply that for people who live on the street. There's some intersection there between the fact that many homeless people, about a fifth of the houseless population, is queer, and queers are also more at risk for sexual assault. So you can sort of stack those up and see that there's uh, some um, extra risk there for those people, as well as the mentally ill are likely to incur that sort of violence. Um, so the houseless community has a lot of different groups converging into uh, one dangerous position, um, and so it's important that we stand as community to confront that.
So, now, so I guess there's two issues. There's the fact that you have vulnerable populations to begin with, and then you have their situation on top of that.
Right.
Um, what makes a person at risk just by being outdoors and like, I mean, it's kind of obvious. Okay, they're outside, but it's deeper than that. I believe there's probably
Well, I mean, there's a lot of factors. Most people like I live my life sort of under this ideology that nothing happens for no reason, and so first of all, most of the people that become houseless become that way for some reason, and it's not their fault, but they're already singled out due to their class status or their sexual orientation or gender identity, um, their race or mental illness, and all these factors are more likely to put people on the street. Um, and so you have all these culminating things that put people at risk even before getting out on the street, or you wouldn't have ended up on the street if you weren't already at risk. Um, so
hi Holland.
so it's important to note that um, once you're already out on the street, of course, you have no walls to protect you. You have no privacy. A lot of times, there's no community protection, but also there's no education around practicing good consent. Um, there's no it's really hard to build community in an area where there's so much scarcity. So when you're dealing with houseless populations, it's a very there's a lot of scarcity dealt with, and so that creates a hard environment to build a sense of community and togetherness in. And I think that helps to put people at risk. But then I think it's largely just this sort of I think it's a side effect of being largely ignored and neglected.
When you hear a car pass, it amplifies.
Right.
So just wait, it's our commercial break. And I just want to say greetings to Holland. Thank you, viewer.
Hi, Holland.
That's
Um,
exciting.
I
Okay.
think, yeah, I think it's important to note that, um, when you've been neglected and had society's back turned on you, there's a very different culture that arises in that sort of scenario, and I think that itself, the feeling that nobody cares, leads to um, certain behaviors being more accepted, and I think that's largely all of these problems are the fault of like the people who aren't houseless, in the same way that like racism is the fault of like, it's not the fault of people of color, it's the fault of people perpetuating racism.